friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ashley Aireonna, joined by the absolute wonderful Tom Jensen. We're so happy to have you here, Tom.
It's
Haven't
great to
done
be
this in a
back,
second.
Ashley. I missed you. This is fun. It's fun to
It's
talk
really,
Niners and get back into the season now.
it's really fun. Before we get into the Niners, because Jennings definitely gave us a lot to talk about. Your old stomping ground is San Diego, and I just got back from San Diego. It was so wonderful. I was telling my dad that we have to go back and
Yeah.
do a trip. I My dad and I did go to San Diego, but it was only for like 8 hours when I
Oh,
was
that
touring
won't work.
colleges. It was when we were touring colleges, so we were like going
Oh, okay.
all around.
Where'd you
And
go?
even
You
then, it
go
was
what
absolutely
state?
beautiful.
UCSD? What'd you do?
Yeah, I checked out UCSD. It was one of the schools I got into, and area wise, it was up there like with choosing it. I don't know. I felt like the students that this is an off topic conversation, so I won't last too long. But I imagine that anyone who went to like UCSB, UCSD, they probably applied to places like UCLA or Cal and didn't get
Yeah.
in. And so normally those schools are like people's second choice. And but the takeaway that I had was when I talked, because we didn't go on like a campus tour where they were trying to sell you. We just went on like a random week
Yeah, you
and
just
saw
went on
all
your
the
own.
different campuses and talked to just the students that we like saw while they were at school. And the reason I ended up landing on UCSB, besides it, is beautiful, has an excellent psychology program, which is what I studied. So academics aside, when I was talking to the students, they were like, "We are so happy to be here. We absolutely love it. Like, there's so much community. The school offers so much. Like, we're so happy we're here. Like, this is either A, our number one choice, or if it wasn't, like, I'm so glad that like the universe ended
Led
up
me here.
placing me here,
Yeah.
and I don't regret it at all." Where when I talked to people at San Diego, they were like, "Yeah, it's good. Like, it was my second choice," and it was just like the like
Yeah.
wasn't there as much.
It's the fallback for
Also,
everybody.
also, UCSD and on the trip that I just went in, I went golfing, and one of the people like I went with a friend, but we were paired up with someone, and we were actually paired up with someone who went to UCSD, and he was saying like it ended up taking him 5 years to graduate, and when I was touring knew that that would happen. So I went to community college, for anyone who didn't know, and then transferred, and they like set it up at my community college really well. So you took all your undergrad courses and qualifying courses. I got all my math out of the way, and I actually took a fair bit of math for the fact that I was like not for the fact that I ended up getting a BA.
Yeah.
But when I was going to transfer, UCSD, they want you to be like well-rounded, which love it. That's a good
Sure.
concept. But
Hmm.
they would require me, someone who was studying psychology, to take linear analysis. Like they had people like calc majors were taking English. Like they required all these extra programs that when I was there, I was like, you'd have to go for an extra year in order to like graduate, because there's no way you could get this done in 2 years. And then I felt validated because the guy that we ran into when we were golfing, he was like, yeah, I had to take an extra year. Like the requirements were like, it was just too much to fit
Yeah.
into 2 years.
You
And so
can't.
I think they kind of screw you to try to get you to pay more for that.
It's a
But
racket, but it's
yeah.
common. Anyway,
Um, Speaking
Jauan.
of screwing people on money, look at that transition.
What a
I'm back
transition
like I never
there.
left, baby. Jauan Jennings, perfect timing. Obviously, excellent, good, depending on how you want to categorize him. Wide receiver for the 49ers. I think been one of, if not the best wide receiver on the team since the Super Bowl run, which is kind of crazy to say because he's actually the wide receiver three, but they've just given a lot of money to guys who haven't lived up to those contracts, either because of performance or because of health. When we're talking about Debo, when we're talking about Ayuk. But it came out yesterday from Adam Schefter that uh 2 days ago. Sorry, I've been on the road. Uh from Adam Schefter that Jauan Jennings has requested a trade. He either wants to get extended. He has one year left on his deal. He actually signed a contract extension last year. But he has one year left on his deal, and it's basically a lame duck year. And he chose the perfect timing. He's 28 right now, so he probably wants to get it done right now. And the 49ers are in a predicament because they signed Demarcus Robinson from the Rams, who was like a wide receiver 3 on their team. But he, at least according to Matt Mayoko, team 49ers team beat reporter, is very likely to be suspended to start the season.
Yeah.
Brandon Ayuk is likely to start the season on PUP. And then you have Ricky Pearsall, but Ricky Pearsall just didn't participate in minicamp. We'll see when comes to training camp is coming up, so we'll see how he is. He was obviously a number 1 pick, but didn't make that much of an impact last year. They drafted Cowing later in the rounds the previous year, and then they drafted Jordan Watkins. Cowing and Watkins kind of have similar body types, but it's a lot of young, unproven talent. And either Jennings or his representation said, if you want to get an extension, this is your time to hit, because they've used you as a wide receiver 1 due to all their injuries. They're going to be leaning on you as a wide receiver 1 to start the season. They kind of are in a situation where their hands are tied and they need you. They've made this huge deal about having no drama and getting all their guys signed, but haven't signed you. What do you make of the news that Jauan Jennings, has requested a trade or wants an extension?
I think he's justified in asking for more money because he's underpaid right now, given the role that he's in. He's going to get 7.5 this year. He's worth at least 10. Spot Track has him at 10 million per as his market value. And he's been telling the Niners reportedly that, let's get something done. And they haven't. And they prioritized for obvious reasons. They said, we got to take care of Brock. We got to take care of Kittle and Fred. And then Jauan says, okay, you've done that now. Now it's my turn. What's going on? So I think that's his thinking. But I think also part of this is he's only been a restricted free agent so far. He hasn't had the true free agency yet. And I think this is his attempt at trying to figure out, what's my true market value? What are people willing to pay? And that's going to define what happens here, because I think the Niners would have a ceiling in mind of what they'd be willing to pay Jauan. I think that they wouldn't pay him any more than 15 with incentives. And the market, according to Spot Track anyway, is 10. So somewhere between 10 and 15. If Jauan is there, I think the Niners will meet him there. If he wants more than that, that's going to be a problem.
That's a good question I have for you. What do you, and this is, we don't know, but what do you hypothesize Jennings is asking for? And what do you think the ceiling the 49ers is?
I
And
think,
not only like per year, but maybe years?
years I would think would be 2 to 3.
Agree. Shorter
Jennings would
contract.
Jennings would probably
Older.
want 3 since he's 28. And so it comes down to, okay, so what's fair? According to Spot Track, fair is 10. According to Jauan, it's probably more because, hey, look, I'm the starter. I was a starter last year. I'm going to open this year as a starter, and I could end up being, wide receiver 2 the entire year. So, given that, I think that he's justified in saying that you need to pay me somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 15 million dollars per year with incentives. And I think that's the Niners' ceiling, is probably 15 with incentives. And if Jauan wants more, if his agent says, no, you're worth 20, you're a starter, you can do that. But I don't think the Niners are going to be willing to meet him there. And they would probably tell him, if you want that much, go ahead, talk to the league, see what they
I
have
don't know
to
if he'd
say.
get that anywhere, right?
I don't think he would. And I think the Niners would know that and say, okay, go ahead, find your deal. And I don't think that he would find anything close to 20. And he'll probably find that of all the teams in the league, the team that's willing to pay him the most, the team that has the most value, the team that he has the most value, says, okay,
The Niners,
it's
because
probably
they
the
need him the
Niners.
most.
But he's going to need to test the market, because that's an itch he hasn't scratched. He's only been restricted so far. And I think that's part of this. It's just the mindset of,
He
I
just like
want to
wants to
be
know.
coveted. I want to be followed. I want to be wooed and dined. I want to be the free agent that everybody's going after. I think
I've
that's what he's
watched
doing.
all my teammates go through this process where
Right.
teams have called and wanted them. The Niners have wanted them. They've ran upstairs to stop trades to make sure they feel valued.
Right.
Where's my value when, 2 years ago I was almost Super Bowl MVP, and last year even though I was the third option, I was being utilized more like the first option.
Yeah, and he will be
Um,
this year to start the season.
Cooper Cup got paid 3 years, 45 million. Now Cooper Cup obviously has like a career history of being phenomenal, but
Yeah,
he did not produce at the level that Jauan Jennings did last year. Um, and so he got closer to 15 per year, 45. I maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this would take Jauan Jennings being able to see what he could get around the league. But I don't think he'll ask for more than 15. And if I was the 49ers, I definitely think, and I like Jauan Jennings. Um, I think it'd be so risky to start the season without him. I wouldn't want to do that. But at the same time, you can't overpay everyone. That's kind
right.
of how they've gotten themselves in this situation. So I would have a hard cap at 15. Like we mentioned all the other wide receivers where there's been this starting deal. Like if I'm the 49ers, I would say, start anywhere between 10 and 15, but I'd say I'm not going above this number. And if
Yeah,
you're not eventually willing to come down, like you need to let me know now because we're either going to trade you or you can hold out and be but like negotiations stop here. Don't think we're doing that thing that we've done with IU because as valuable as you are, and we are obviously we want to lean on you or whatever, your skill set, he's not fast like that. He's almost like a tight end in the way that he and some
yeah,
of that is helpful, right? Because he's an excellent blocker.
sure.
George Kittle was just on, I think, with Kay Adams, uh, and talked about his leadership in the locker room. That like on an average practice that he's very disciplined and calm, but then he called it, he's like he kind of blacks out on games and just goes crazy and he brings this energy but in a way that is really reserved. I actually touched on this, it must have been 2 years ago. It was when Trent Williams got kicked out of a game for like throwing a punch. I think two seasons ago now. And I condemned Trent for doing this, and a lot of people were like, "Well, the other person hit him." And this was when Jalen Ramsey was on the Rams, and
Hmm.
I looked at Jauan, and I used Jauan as my example because Jauan will antagonize other corners. He'll
Yeah,
rile them up, but he always toes the line just perfect where he's not getting kicked out of the game. The other guy is, which not only like I feel like he helps the team in so many ways. Obviously, Brock trusts him and they
yeah,
have some sort of chemistry there. And that's one of the most important things right now since they just signed Brock Purdy and all his wide receivers are, traded away or unhealthy right now. You you'd think that they'd want to keep a guy that they have, their franchise quarterback has some camaraderie with. But yeah, I
yeah.
definitely would put a hard line at 15. I feel like I just made the case both ways. I love Juwan. I want to keep him, but I don't want to continue to overpay these aging guys that are I'm not expecting Juwan to I think he's on the descending, And
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be rude. He's
no,
28. He's already a bit of a slower player. Um, do I think he's still going to be valuable to the team? Yes, that's why I'd want to keep him. Do I want to pay him like he's a 25-year-old speedy dude? No, you know. So,
and that all has to be factored in. And so is Brock or is Jawan and his agent at a place where they're willing to recognize this is my true market value in the league. It should be around 12 to 15 with incentives, and let's make something happen there. If the Niners then say we're not even willing to go to 12, then the shoe's on the other foot. Then it's, come on, pay me what I'm worth and pay me for the role that you have me in. So I hope that 12 to 15 is where they settle. But if Juwan has designs on making 20, then
that's
this is
not
going to take more time because the Niners will inevitably tell him, okay,
I'm
good
sorry,
luck.
that's not
Go
they're
find
not
somebody willing to pay you that. And it'll take weeks because then he'll want to talk to the league and the league will say, we like you, but. So I think the issue with all of this is going to be they're going to have to come to an agreement on what's fair. And they're probably going to have to give Juwan enough time to get the in effect the free agency that he's seeking of I want to find out what my true market value is worth. And I think once he does that, he'll find that his market value is where the Niners should pay him, somewhere in 12 to 15. I think 20 is unreasonable. I don't think
Right.
anybody would take it. I'm not saying that that's what they're asking for. I'm just saying that if they do, the Niner reaction would be, okay, good luck. So
I
yeah, we'll see how it sorts out. I would think that it's going to be somewhere 12 to 15, 3 years per, and it'll take them 3 to 4 weeks to get done if Jawan is unreasonable about his initial demand.
Can you and we'll get into more of the camp stuff in a little bit, but when you said 2 to 3 weeks to work this out, the veterans report next year or
Next
next
week.
year, next football season's
See you later,
canceled for a
guys.
year, guys. 911. The veterans report next week to training camp, but I know the first, I think, week or so is non-padded, and they've
Right.
done this before where they haven't gotten guys signed until right before first padded the first padded practice where they can actually hit each other. Is that what you're kind of eyeballing as a
Yeah, around there. Again, this is all driven by what are Juwan's expectations right now. Is it over 15? If so, it'll take longer. Is it under 15? Then it can take a week, 2 weeks. It's up to him. His expectations drive the length of the contract negotiation.
yes. Now, is there something to last year that the team is seemingly like all this year when they've talked about no drama, they've blamed Ayuk and his holdout in his contract on why they had such a bad year. You and I have talked about the leadership, the veterans, the paying, Christian McCaffrey. All we think there's lots of more reasons aside from Brandon Ayuk, who is a contributing factor
Yeah,
out of 10 things. Um, but since they've tried to place it all on this one thing, to me, they should have some urgency to get this done because what they've been telling fans is this is what caused all our problems last year. So to me, it should be a big giant red flag that it's happening again. Like, how are you going to convince fans, hey, it's not a big deal when all the way up until now you've said the only reason we did bad last year was because of this situation?
yeah, but I don't think that they're going to let the narrative dictate the timing or the payment on this. There's urgency in terms of if Juwan is willing to do something reasonable, okay, we want to get this done within 2 weeks so that he's under contract before we start playing in pads. Otherwise, if Juwan wants more than 15, I'm not going to feel urgency and sign him for 18 or 20. I'm going to let the process play out. So I don't think that there's anything outside that's driving the timing other than what Juwan is willing to sign for. That's the
That's
sole
fair.
driver on time.
Now, and you could be right that he wants a little bit more and he wants to see what he would get elsewhere. Adam Schefter did come out about 2 hours ago and said other teams have called and asked, inquired the 49ers about Jauan Jennings, and apparently the 49ers have told them we don't want to trade him. So
Okay. Well, but that's easily said. Did Schefter mention any team specifically or just said teams are calling?
he just I have the quote written down from his tweet. He said several teams have already inquired about Jauan Jennings' availability, but the Niners have said that they have no desire in trading the wide receiver. Per Adam Schefter,
Okay.
this wasn't a tweet; it was like on ESPN.
Something on ESPN. Okay. Well, just to cover our bases, let's say that okay, it gets to a point where the Niners say he wants too much, we're going to have to deal him. Who are the teams that would be interested? Cleveland, Denver, Indy, Pittsburgh, New Orleans, New England, Houston. I think one of those would be the most likely teams to step up. But it's one thing to kick the tires on Jawan, it's another to offer something the Niners would like. That's
Yeah,
going to be the problem. A lot of
anyone
people
can
are saying, "Oh,
call and
third
say,
rounder," and I think no. The most they would get is a fourth. They'd probably get a fifth, and so I don't think that they're going to get nearly enough. The value of Jawan is far greater as a player than is the pick they would get for him.
and
Maybe
he's
there's a veteran swap. The one team that could do a veteran is Cleveland. They've got a nickelback, Greg Newsome, great back, but had a poor year last year. He's on the final year of his deal. He wants to be a free agent next year, so he's looking to get paid. Makes a
okay.
little bit over 13. and he's somebody that the Niners have been rumored to be interested before. So Newsom as a trade for Jawan, maybe I could see that, but it would require the Niners giving up on we can't pay Jawan what we think he's worth. He wants too much. Then I could see a
Would
trade,
they
and I think that
pay
Cleveland is a possibility because of Newsom.
would they pay the nickel though in that case?
No, I think that they would just rent him
Just take
for
a
a year.
1-year rental. Got it. Got it. Okay. Um, that's interesting. Now, I have it. Bleacher Report put out some potential trades that they were thinking
Okay.
about, and I texted them to you. Now, this would obviously involve picks and stuff as well. Um, Not player for player straight up, but do you think that the 49ers could be interested in Terry McLaurin? He has been outspokenly very unhappy with the Commanders and also wants to be rewarded. I think people would consider Terry McLaurin a better wide receiver, a little bit older, but better wide receiver than Jauan Jennings. Could there be interest there? Would that make any sense? Probably
Probably
not because
not.
he wants to get paid more than Jennings, right?
Yeah, well, that's part of the issue is that if Scary Terry were to come in, then Ayuk would need to go out. That wouldn't involve Jawan. And would Adam Peters make a trade of Brandon Ayuk for Terry McLaurin? No. So,
Got it.
we can all say we want Terry McLaurin. Well, sure you
Mhm.
do. Everybody wants Terry McLaurin. Does Washington want to give him up? No. I don't think there's any viability of a trade for Terry McLaurin for the Niners. I
What
don't
if you
think that's
did
possible.
what if you did Jennings and Brandon Ayuk for Terry and, like, a pick?
I
No?
still don't think Washington would
Got
do it.
it.
I don't because the core of the deal is still McLaurin for Ayuk, and I don't think they're interested in that. I think that
Agreed.
Adam Peters would only do that if he was lobbied hard by Jaden Daniels saying, Ayuk's my boy. We played together at Arizona State. Please bring him in. If Daniels pressured Peters to get Ayuk in Washington, okay. But on its
Seems
face, on
like
its
they would
own, I
wanna
don't
see
think
him
Peters
healthy
would want to
first.
make that trade. I don't
Yeah.
think McLaurin's going anywhere, but it's going to take a while for them to come to an agreement on the money.
Do you feel similar about Amari Cooper then? Because
I don't
Cooper
want Amari Cooper. I don't think he's
Oh,
that
tell
good.
me why.
I just I'm not that impressed with Amari Cooper. He's just a guy. He's a
Okay.
name. People want Amari Cooper because they've heard of him. But you look at him as a player and say, yeah,
Got
I'm
it.
not
Got it.
excited about Amari Cooper. I'm just not. I'd rather
What
have
what
Jauan
role would
Jennings
he
and
what role would Amari Cooper, like, play? Obviously, if they traded him, he'd have to be the wide receiver 1, but what is his, like, skill
yeah.
set? Is he faster? Is he
He's more like Ayuk in terms of trying to be someone that can get separation and make plays off of it.
Okay.
But whether he can actually do that now, I think he's on the decline. I don't think much of his game to begin with. I don't like Amari Cooper. I don't want him.
I like it.
Yeah, as Jonathan says, he's too old. Yeah, he is. Move
Yeah,
on.
Cooper's too old.
Yeah, I'd
Um,
rather have Juwan and his skill set that doesn't require speed than to take on Amari Cooper.
so
He's
what
done.
you're saying about Cooper, because 'cause I'm less knowledgeable about Cooper, but this is how I feel about the other, trade that Bleacher Report suggested, and it's Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen has, like, not been productive on his own team forever. I don't know why the 49ers would wanna I don't
Well,
know. How do
Keenan
you feel
Allen
about him?
has Keenan Allen has a lot of skills, but it's just that he no longer has the physicality that he had earlier in his career with the Chargers and his game at Cal. So Keenan Allen is another Jawan now in terms of a guy that's smart in his routes, reliable hands, and just finds a way to make things happen. And he was stuck in a bad situation last year in Chicago. So Keenan can still play. It's just would you rather have Jawan? Yeah, yeah. I like Keenan Allen. Yeah, I saw him play at Cal. I just keep
That's how I
Jawan.
feel.
Keep Jawan.
I I think when it comes to the majority of the wide receivers that the 49ers actually would have a chance at getting, um, Jauan Jennings is a better fit for the team that he's on right now. He already has the chemistry with Brock Purdy. We already know his skill set, where some of these other players that would be able to be gotten. Obviously, if you're talking about a Terry McLaurin, a Tyreek Hill, I heard someone say, like, those are to me are less realistic. But when I'm talking about Keenan Allen, I would rather have. And someone said I'd take
Excuse me a
Allen over
second, Ashley.
Campbell.
Hold on.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Hey, I'm the maintenance guy. I knocked a few
Someone's
times.
breaking into Tom's house.
I'm on the live stream right now.
Okay. I have a major leak downstairs. Did you use any water today?
Yeah, I had a shower.
You had a shower? Okay. I think your shower has a crack in it.
Take a look
Let
at the
me
bathroom.
let me mute Tom.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Someone breaking into your house?
Yeah, basically, it's a maintenance guy.
Got it.
Sorry about that.
Um,
Anyway, so
Yeah.
is there another receiver that they could get? Yeah, maybe. But on balance, I'd just as soon keep Jauan.
Love it. If you weren't trading him for a player, I think you already kind of said this. If it was just picks in return, third round pick, you think the 49ers would take it immediately.
Sure, I
But
don't think it would be offered, though.
yeah, but fifth round pick, what do you think about that? I wouldn't.
I
I
don't
don't know
think
if
they
I would do
would
that.
take that.
Yeah, me
But I
neither.
think that's what they'd be offered. And that's a part of the reason why a trade probably doesn't happen is because the Niners don't get what they want. That's where I think a Newsom trade with Cleveland is possible, just because that's somebody that they were rumored to be interested in the past, where he's reportedly available from Cleveland. Cleveland has a need for a receiver. So that could fit in theory if both teams are interested in doing that. But I think what the Niners want is to keep Jauan at a reasonable price, and that's up to Jauan.
Agree. Tom, a lot of 49ers fans I've seen say that they think that the wide receivers on this team stink. Is that fair? Do you think that they're bad, or do you think that
Untested.
they're just
I don't think they stink. It's just that
unproven?
we don't know. Pearsall had the one great game last year, and so he's shown that he could. Cowing hasn't had much of an opportunity. Jordan Watkins, we'll see. So it's too many unknowns is the problem. It's not a lack of talent. It's just a lack of trust and security. I think fans want security. That's part of why some people want Amari Cooper, because he's a name. But is he
Got it.
really a
I'd
fit?
rather
Does he really
trust
help
this
them?
guy who
No.
might be over the on the other side, but at least
Right.
I've seen what he could do in the past versus these guys that I don't know. They could be better, but they also could be worse, and I don't want to bet on that.
Yeah, me either.
If you're the 49ers,
I can't hear you.
sorry about that. If you're the 49ers, some people I've seen say, you should rip the Band-Aid off, trade Jennings because he's not worth whatever he wants, and you should just go out there with Cowing, Watkins, and Ricky Pearsall. I think that's a bad idea, and I've been pro let's get younger. I'm pro let's have some stability while circling younger guys in. Like, I don't think we should do what we did last year, where basically none of the rookie and previous years as well, where basically none of the rookies played or made any impact until the very end, and we're just like workhorsing our older, fragile veterans. I don't think it should be that, but I also don't think it should be like, okay, completely clean house with everyone and just jump into a brand new team. Um, Especially with the schedule that they have, I think that they could actually be good this year and be in playoff contention this year. Um, do you agree with that? Like, how do you feel on the just let all the rookies play? Um, is that even smart? Being that with Ricky Pearsall, and I'm not talking about him getting shot, but I'm talking about his first camp and now this camp, he suffered with injuries. Jacob Cowing was injured last year. Now we don't know about Watkins. He was just drafted this year, but what I would say is I think Watkins and Cowing fill similar roles. So I don't know if you'd want to have both of them on the field at the same time. The thing with Jennings is if you look at Jennings' skill set versus Ricky and Jacob and or Watkins, Jennings fills a totally different role in the field than them.
Right.
He's
Right.
a slower, bigger body, more reliable guy, in my opinion, where Cowing and Watkins are going to be more the thin, speedy guys that are just down the field threats. And hopefully we'll see what Ricky can develop into. But Jennings is a pseudo tight end with his blocking. I just think he fills a totally different void where if you were to get rid of him, even if you were going to play all the rookies, you'd still have a hole missing there.
Yeah, yeah. There'd be a skill set hole in the receiver room, and there'd be a lack of leadership, and there would be a lack of a security blanket for Brock, where you have that third and Jauan aspect that he knows he can go to. So yeah, you can't just let Jauan walk and then say we'll be good with who we've got left. You can do that where you just throw the young kids out of the nest and see what they do. That's possible, but all of that's going to be driven by how much Jauan wants. That's the driver. In an ideal world, you keep Jauan and you develop the young kids eventually, and then you get them ready to go next year. But that's all going to depend on what Jennings wants. How much does he want to get paid? And if it's reasonable, then all this comes together. And if it's not, then all the trade scenarios and everything else comes into play. So I don't think it's a question of the Niners making a decision on, well, can we let Jennings go? It's more that what Jennings wants drives everything.
Papa J put out a number. I think this is way too high. He's just too old. I agree with Tom
4
where
years too much.
I'm thinking he's going to get 2 to 3. He probably wants 3. Niners might be fighting for 2. I used the Cooper Cup deal as like kind of where I would absolutely cap it, and I don't even know if the Niners would go that high, but that's 3 years, 45. I'm thinking that they're going to want to land in between 12 and 15,
Right.
hopefully closer to 12. And if they did 12 for 3 years, I would think that that's a really good deal. If they did
Sure, for
15
them.
for 3 years, I'd understand why they did it because they're in a really bad predicament to start this year. But I would think that that contract could look bad in a year or two, this at the end of this year, the final 2 years. If
Right.
they were able to get him for a 2-year deal, I think that would be very team friendly. I don't know if Jauan would sign something like this, but I don't
Probably
think
not.
either of them are pushing for this 4-year deal. Just
No, I
he
don't.
is obviously he made such an impact. I'm not trying to lower what he did for the team last year and the end of the Super Bowl run, but he has for the majority of his career been a wide receiver 3 at best. So I don't think he is too gone on like where he's at, I think he wants the most for his role, but he doesn't think that he's Brandon Ayuk, 23 speedy whatever.
Right.
Um JK Romeo says pay him like a tight end. No team will ever pay him as a wide receiver. I agree with you. I think what Tom's saying is he's never had the ability to actually go test the market because he's always been a restricted free agent. So he could really believe in himself. He could have an agent in his ear. He could just be curious and want to know, is that true? I think
Yeah.
that's true. I think reasonable people would think that's true, but he might just be like, we don't. Maybe there's a desperate team out there that would pay me more, and if that is true, I want to, either go there or I want you to match them, and that might be what he's kind of
Right.
pushing them to do.
Right. But the chances of a team being desperate in anything are unlikely as you get this close to camp. Most teams think that we've got our guys.
Yeah,
There isn't anybody out there saying that, I really need Jauan Jennings. I
yeah,
don't
they
think
would have
that's
made
it.
that move already.
They'd say he's a nice player to have. He's somebody we would be interested in. We'll definitely kick the tires, but I don't see anyone having the urgency if we need to go out and get him. I don't think that's there.
Yeah. I Jordan Peterman put out 3 years, 20 or 47 million with a huge
Yeah.
signing bonus.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Something similar to that
Yeah.
I could see. Um, they will pay him minimal cap wise like they did Purdy. I do think that they'll try to structure it team friendly.
Sure.
And
Yeah. It'll
and make it
be
work.
a high signing bonus and a low base pay kind of a deal initially.
Yes. And then the last comment before I get into our next topic that I did want to address, it was earlier up, but Cliff's Super Bowl said he did get kicked out of the game
Yeah.
late last year because I used an example of how he usually riles up other people and doesn't get kicked out. After that game, they took it back and said they were wrong. They ended up not fining him at all, and they only
Right.
fined the other player. So I agree that this happened, but similar to previously, except for previously he wasn't even kicked out. It was found to not be on Jennings, which is, I especially with the loss of Dre Greenlaw, I don't mind having a guy who pushes the line, toes the line, on offense or defense. I think you need, a lot of guys who are very professional, but I think you need some line steppers, and he is that. When you have a lot of rookies, who are going to be, I think on their best behavior, I don't think it's horrible to have one guy that is a bit of a line stepper, especially when he seemingly knows when to pull back for the benefit of the team. He's gonna get in people's face, but he's not so into his own ego that he's willing to hurt the team. At least that's how it's came off so far in
Yeah.
his interactions.
There's
He
a
really
balance
got
to his
into
mindset. Yeah.
yeah, really, really, really got into Jalen Ramsey's head when he was on the Rams.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of always remember.
Played him like a banjo. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if we should move off of Jennings or if we can let's do a quick hypothetical and then we'll talk about Alfred Collins. But if they do, and this is probably the arguments that Jauan Jennings' team is making, but if Jauan Jennings does stay with the 49ers this year, we've seen some reports. Matt Mayoko came out about a week ago, but he then went on his own YouTube channel 2 days ago and kind of reiterated this. He said, Brandon Ayuk might be ready to start the season. He's really ahead of progress when it comes to his rehab. He's going to start the camp on PUP, but depending on, where he's at, things could change. But then he went on to say that he's actually looking at week 5 is when it's most realistic that he's going to come back, but week 5 is a short week. So according to Matt Mayoko, he's going to put his money on Brandon Ayuk coming back week 6. What I would say is that's kind of where I think most people were putting it at in general. So it's like an update that's not an update. Do you think who do you think, if you had to hypothesize, like this is just a guess, who do you think is going to make a bigger impact in 2025? Someone else in the comments said one of JJ's best assets is that he's consistently on the field. Let's knock on wood. But when it comes to a lot of these, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk right now, Debo in the past, Ricky Pearsall right now, that is a plus that Jennings has had so far. He's, getting older, and I'm not predicting injuries, but
he's available, and that's important.
He's been reliable so far.
Yeah.
Do you think that he'll make a bigger impact in 2025 than Brandon Ayuk?
I don't think so. I think that Ayuk would have a bigger impact even if he came in later, and that Ayuk would be an important piece of the team if they made a playoff run late, and then in a playoff game if they made it. So I think that Ayuk is the more important player. But even if it is week 5, week 6, I think 5 would be more likely. I think that's the Rams. So I think he would want to be back for the Ram game. So we'll see. I haven't looked at the schedule lately, but that's my guess. So we'll see. Either way, what the Niners ideally want is to have both of those guys and to rely on them as the best can going forward. Hopefully, Jauan is willing to be reasonable once he hears from the league that your value hits the ceiling at 15. That's as far as you can go. And if he can find that out and find it out quickly, then the Niners can move forward with him and get something done. That's my hope.
I like what you said about even if Brandon Ayuk comes back week 5, week 6, where he will shine if the 49ers get there is in the playoffs. And that's kind of what I think too, because I assume when he comes back, if he's, fully healthy, cleared, there still might be a couple games where it takes for him and Brock Purdy to kind of get their chemistry going, to get Brandon Ayuk. Okay, I'm healthy enough to use this leg, but do I trust it? Like, is it instinctual, or is there a second where I'm hesitating and thinking like, oh, is this going to hurt? Oh, okay, no, it doesn't. But like, that really, like, I'm not even thinking about it. I think we'll take a couple games. And what would be great is if Jauan Jennings is on the team and he can help them win a couple games with Brock Purdy and the rest of the, defense and offense, help them win a couple games up until then. Brandon Ayuk comes back. He starts getting in his flow. They're winning enough that they can get out of the playoffs. And then by that time, Brandon Ayuk can kind of be at his full potential, his best self.
Right.
Which is what I like about his return date being, middle to early middle of the season, gives him enough time if the 49ers can manage to get there, hopefully be hitting his stride in the playoffs. And that is where you would hope that he'd be the most impactful. But yeah, I agree. I think they're both I've saw this like comparison. To me, it's a hard comparison because they just play such separate roles. And
Yeah.
Jauan Jennings, I would say, was in the playoffs in the Super Bowl year and in the Super Bowl was the most impactful player. But I would have to admit that Brandon Ayuk being on the team allowed Jennings to get open more because more wide receivers are
Yeah.
double teaming Ayuk. They're trying to take Ayuk out of the game, and that allowed Jennings. It's like and I'm not trying to say Brandon Ayuk is Steph Curry, but when Steph Curry's on the team, there's 3 guys guarding him. It's easy for Buddy Hield to go off, and I'm
Yeah.
not trying to diminish Jauan Jennings. I'm just saying
No, I get where you're coming
Jennings has
from.
benefited from being on a team with Debo or Brandon Ayuk or Christian McCaffrey, someone else who is getting the number 1, corner. Even in some sense, the number 1 and number 2 corners are on that one guy. And then Jennings is just like, they're like, oh, I forgot about him. And he can kind of kill you then because he is good when called upon. But we've
Right.
never,
Well, it's true in most sports, there's a gravity effect. And so Steph will be the center of gravity for the Warriors, and the team is going to have to focus their entire defense on how do we stop that guy. And for the Niners, we've got a lot of weapons that a defense is really worried about. Ayuk, CMC, Kittle, and lost in the shuffle, Jauan Jennings. And that's where you can have a lot of value, is that even when everybody else is covered, even when Jauan is covered, you can still throw the ball in his direction. He's going to come down with it. And that's something that Brock trusts, and that's therefore something the Niners need. Is they need to get better at third down conversions, both on offense and defense. And Jauan is a part of that equation.
question. Because I kind of pointed out Brandon Ayuk and Jennings are different, but something that I have heard other content creators say, and I don't know if I agree or not. I'd like to hear your opinion. George Kittle versus Jauan Jennings. Do they play similar roles? Like, obviously, one of them is a wide receiver, one of them's on a tight end. Jauan Jennings is slow for a wide receiver. George Kittle is fast for a tight end. Both of them have big bodies and are slower than, a Brandon Ayuk. They're both very, tough, physical players. But what do you think the differences are there? And do you think Jennings is, as good as George Kittle? Because I tend to say no, but I've seen that comparison being made.
Yeah, I don't buy it. I mean, you can make the comparison and say that Jauan is like a move tight end too, so that he can be sort of an Isaiah Likely, but at wide receiver and a better blocker than Likely as well. But yeah, is he Kittle 1A? No. Kittle's a better player. Is he a tight end 2? Not really, because where he lines up is wide receiver positions. So we'll see. Plus, they've got the tight end 2 that they're bringing in, so they've got their blocking sled tight end 2 now, which means all the more reason for Jauan to be used more as a wide receiver than a tight end. I think they'll still take advantage of his blocking because he's that good at it, but they'll do it from a wide receiver position, not a tight end 2 slot.
Yes. I'm really hoping that, especially to start the season, as the young guys are easing their way in, which is my hope, that Jauan Jennings is on the team and Kittle is also getting a lot more of those targets in the passing game as well.
And period. I mean, Kittle needs more targets, period.
Yeah.
In addition to more targets, red zone.
Every game that he gets 8 or more, they win. And for some reason, there's like multiple games that he gets like 3 targets. And it's like, why? Why is this happening? Why is this happening?
Part of it will depend on what the defense can do in taking Kittle away. But when Kittle has an advantage, and that's most of the matchups, throw the ball.
I like how you said in the red zone, like he doesn't have far to go, and he's a big body, and he can kind of thrust himself into players.
Right.
Target him there.
He can clear space. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jauan, same thing. You can use Jauan the same way.
Yes, I completely agree. Now we're gonna kind of pivot. Today, the rookies reported to camp. Like I said earlier, the veterans report next week. Open practices and media starts in, I think, later next week. But you guys might be hearing that around the NFL, not just with the 49ers, second round picks are not reporting. They're not showing up. The Chargers had their first day of, mini camp, or not mini camp, of training camp last week, and their second round pick, did not show up. So he's holding out. The 49ers drafted Alfred Collins in the second round. Tom, can you explain what's going on with these second round picks? I think
Sure.
you said earlier, out of 32, only two of them have signed to contracts.
Yeah.
Why is this happening? What's going on?
The first two picks in the second round were given fully guaranteed money in their contracts by the teams at the top of the second.
Okay.
And every agent is now saying, okay, my client, Mr. Second Rounder, wants fully guaranteed money too. And therefore, every second round pick is holding out for fully guaranteed money. In the past, that's only been given to first round picks exclusively. This year, two teams caved because agents got creative and aggressive, and they found desperate GMs who said, okay, we'll give you fully guaranteed money. And that screwed over the rest of the entire league, who said, there's no way we're doing this. The hit rate on second round picks isn't nearly as high as the first.
No.
The first get the high guaranteed, fully guaranteed money because they're first round picks, because they're more reliable. The second rounders are not. And yet, because two teams caved completely and got bent over by the agent, now every agent is saying, I want fully guaranteed money for my client. Thanks a lot. And so it's a war between the agents and the teams. And we'll see. Lance Zierlein, the draft guru from Houston, he says teams are going to dig in. No team wants to do this, and they won't. And we'll see. But for the Niners, that puts them in a really tough spot because they don't have anybody else. Yeah, Alfred Collins doesn't sign, then what? I mean, you got CJ West, but then what are you going to do? Givens, Evan Anderson, these aren't starter capable people, but because Collins hasn't been signed because of these agents, here you are. So they're in a rock and a hard place, but I don't think that the Niners are going to budge. They're not going to move. The problem is that if somebody else decides to give into the pressure and give the fully guaranteed money to another second round pick, any second round pick that's taken before that guy is going to now be guaranteed to get the fully guaranteed money. So we don't have to just watch the Niners. We have to watch the entire league for this, because if anybody signs and gets fully guaranteed money, the whole league can get screwed by that.
I agree. And I feel like people who have subscribed to my channel long term know that I usually am pro, like, if you're a player, you should try to get as much money as you can. But I do I like that there's a distinction between, like, you made it to the first round, so you're going to get this special, treatment. And the teams, by the way, when you're in the first round, they also have more control of you because they have the 5th year option. So it's not like, they're not getting anything out of it either. They are. But I like there being that distinction. Like, you played good enough in college, you tested well enough, whatever. Someone believed in you well enough. That's why you're getting this fully guaranteed contract. We can't just start, because if it happens to the second round, then it's going to happen to the third round. It's just going to keep spiraling, which is why I think a lot of these GMs or teams are trying to put such a hard line on it, because they're like, where does this end if it doesn't end here?
Right.
What's scary for the 49ers is they released Malik Collins and Javon Hargrave this offseason, and they're expecting or really, really wanting Alfred Collins to start week 1. And that's already kind of difficult because any rookie coming out of college, adjusting to a new system, it's already scary. But with the way this defense looked, they're relying on a lot of these rookies to come in and perform in general, but perform well right away. So you can't really have these guys not participating in the offseason programming. I'm worried about it. I feel like this could make an impact on this defensive line.
It will.
Which, it was already down. We were already down on it last year, but it was like, okay, you put so much of the draft effort into this. It has to, something has to come out of this. And you have Robert Saleh, who's an excellent teacher, coach, instructor. But if Collins isn't there or isn't participating, then, how much is he actually grabbing and grasping on and retaining? It's a scary thought to think.
It is. They drafted him as a foundation piece for the defense. Said,
Yeah.
this is going to be the boulder in the middle that's going to shut down the run. We're just going to say, okay, Alfred, take on double teams and shut this down, wall off
Yeah.
the inside run. That's what they picked him for. And as you point out, he's going to have to learn this because he didn't play wide nine in Texas. So he has to learn a new system. He has to be taught up in pro techniques. And if he misses rookie camp for this
How are
next
you gonna?
week, that puts him further behind. And this is something that's probably going to extend for a long time because as I keep reading on Twitter, there's all these people plugged into the NFL that said teams are furious and they are not going to cave on this. And the agents smell blood in the water and they say, well, I can get my guy fully guaranteed
Yeah.
money. And
One of
so
you guys will be
it's
desperate enough to duck, and then that's gonna make everyone else duck. So
right.
we're gonna hold out. What's
So it's a
scary?
stare down contest, and that means weeks. And
Yeah.
that's a problem for the Niners because they need Collins to get up to speed so that he can start week one. If this extends all the way through where you're starting to miss exhibition games because this is still going on, that's my worry. They
What's
need Collins
interesting?
signed before you get to the actual game playing with preseason. They
Yeah.
need him by then, minimum. And this
Yeah.
could go at least that long. If
Mhm.
the folks that are talking on Twitter are reliable, they're saying that the teams are not going to do this and the agents are not going to cave, and it's just going to be this stare down for weeks.
It's like I mean, more teams than just the 49ers have to be like a second round pick is
Big.
a high draft pick. Like all these NFL teams are just not having their second round pick show up. I'm not saying that they should, fully guarantee the money, but like it's a huge problem for the 49ers because they really put themselves
Yeah.
in a situation where they need a starter. But that has to be the same for other teams around the
Oh, yeah.
NFL. Like
Every team
you
is
can't
looking
just
at
be
a
like,
second
it's not a
rounder.
big deal. My second round pick. Like that's a big deal to every team, just specifically 49ers. Now, something that's interesting for you guys who don't know or weren't here is Alfred Collins was out of OTAs and rookie minicamp as well. And the reasoning that they gave at the time was that it was a calf injury that
Right.
was around
Aggravated
his
it is
pro day
pro
or
day.
something.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, neither is good, but I would rather it be he's holding up because of this contract thing than because of his calf that happened his pro day, because that means this is a lingering
Right.
issue. And I don't want to mess around with a guy who, I don't know if we should fully guarantee or sign any money to a guy with a calf issue when it comes to the 49ers. That seems to be a big no-go right now. But yeah, he was he was there for OTAs, but he didn't participate. And then rookie minicamp, the end of it, the last few weeks of the offseason program, he was not. If he was in the building, he wasn't in front of the media. So I checked with Grant Cohn, I checked with Matt Barrows and Nick Wagner, who all report on like attendance and who they see when they're out there in practice.
Yeah.
And for the final couple weeks of rookie minicamp, no one even saw Alfred Collins. So, like I said, the first during OTAs they saw him, but he was on the side not practicing.
Right.
The last couple weeks he wasn't even there. Do you think he'll show up? I mean, the reporting is today. I haven't heard anything of it today. The media reports next week, so that's when we'll see like who they see out there. But do you predict that he'll be there but not participating, or he won't even be there?
I don't think he'll be there.
That sucks.
Big time.
I don't like that answer, Tom.
But that's, I'm sorry, Ashley. I wish I could give you better news, but no, probably not. And yeah, as Jonathan says, it's contract. And the contract thing could linger because the teams have a vested interest in making absolutely certain this does not become precedent.
Yeah, that's not good. And you don't anticipate that the 49ers would cave if
No,
Cam's
even though it's important. I
it's so
wrote in a
important.
piece at one point, I
Who
think
do
they'll
they
have to
have if
cave
they don't have him?
eventually. Yeah.
Who do they play there if it's not him?
Givens or Evan Anderson. Yeah, good luck. Yeah. Yeah, they drafted Collins for a reason. He's a foundational boulder for the defense. He's pivotal. But
Yeah.
it's a bigger issue for the team to say we are not going to make this a precedent, period, end of story. And that's it. Yeah, it's make do. And I think that the Niners are going to be one of many teams who are just going to draw a line in the sand and say,
Yeah.
no, agents, no. You took advantage of two teams that were desperate enough to give fully guaranteed money. We are not that desperate. And I think that's what's going to go down.
Yeah. Jonathan Pearman says he played through injury in college. I hope you're not talking
Right.
about the calf. Is the calf injury?
No, he
Or is
played hurt at Texas a lot.
got
He
it.
wasn't fully
I hate
healthy
that
for
in
most
general.
of the year.
I, in general, wish that the 49ers would start. I feel like they have this thing where they're like, he's such a tough guy. And they did this a lot when they were talking about the Curtis Rourke, the
Yeah,
backup quarterback,
QB.
undrafted quarterback that they drafted. But they were like, he's so gritty and tough. He played through a broken knee all year. And it's like, by the way, Curtis Rourke might be good. I looked at some tape. I don't know, anything, but I watched some tape and he seemed interesting, whatever. But it's like, can't you just get a guy that's good? Like, why does he have to be? Why do we got to get the injured guy who like gritted it out? What about the guy?
It'd be nice, yeah, especially after all the Trent Baalke stuff. It's just, do we have to keep taking injured guys in the draft? No. But in worst case, it doesn't really matter because it's not like he's going to see the field this year anyway. So if you're injured this year, so what? Because you're not going to play. It doesn't matter. But for other guys, if you're planning to use this guy and you drafted him because, gee, we got him and he's a great value because he was hurt, yeah, but he's hurt. And so that becomes an issue with Ricky Pearsall, with Michael Williams, who had a lot of injuries at Georgia this year. Nick Martin at Oklahoma State missed a lot of games, but he had a huge year last year. So you keep picking these guys with injury concerns, then they get nicked up. That's on you.
Oh. Tom, before we get out of here and I think are we going live next week? Hopefully we're going live
Oh
next
yeah,
week.
we're going
Yeah,
live the rest. This is
camp
the
is gonna
start
be
of the
happening.
season for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every week
But
from here on out.
love it, love it. Yeah, you guys make sure to like and subscribe. Follow Tom. I saw you did an article yesterday, right?
Yeah, on
Um,
Jauan.
yeah, I saw that. Follow Tom Ninercast on Twitter to make sure you are keeping up with his articles, especially as the season and camp is ramping up. There's going to be lots of interesting stuff to break down on his Twitter with his articles, and then on our YouTube channel, I usually try to flesh those out. But before we take off, that was just a quick little plug. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not. But before we take off, camp, like I said, they're reporting today. We're going to talk more about day one of camp next week because I think day one will have just finished up. But
Yeah.
what are some battles, training camp battles that you're interested in seeing? Are there some position groups that you're gonna, be extra keeping your eye out on? Aside from obviously, does Alfred Collins show up? What happens with
Right.
Jennings? Those are two stories that are kind of in the highlight. But when it comes to actual training camp battles,
Yeah.
and
Well, or just overall in terms of the team need. So just starting on offense, it's okay. Who gets the guard job? It's probably Ben Barch, but Spencer Burford will at least get a look, and we'll see who gets that. Center, does it go to Brendel? Does it go to Matt Hennessy? So the offensive line has a couple of questions. Running back, can Jordan James get a role? Is he going to know the offense enough that Kyle will trust him to play him? I'm worried that with CMC, he's going to be motivated as he was in the year when he won the Offensive Player of the Year. He's going to want his stats so that he can get another extension. So he's going to be motivated to play a ton. And Kyle loves to push the CMC easy button. The only way that changes is if Jordan James changes their mind for them. So Jordan James becomes really important because he's the conduit to keeping McCaffrey healthy. That's something that I want to watch. Wide receiver, I want to watch Jordan Watkins, see what he can do. He had problems with some plays that he didn't get the route right. He didn't know the play call correctly. That's the fastest way for Kyle to bench somebody. He has to correct that in rookie camp this week. On defense, the line, we've gone through it. God knows. Linebacker, Nick Martin's going to have to show that he can play pass coverage, and D. Winters is going to have to show that he can play run coverage. Both of them will have to play. And then DB and safety, we'll have to see how that shakes down. Who's the nickel right now? We don't know. That could be anybody. Who are the safeties?
I'm interested in that
We
because
don't
with
know.
Malik Mustafa injured, I don't know what's going to be going on there.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be a
Obviously,
real
I think he's going to
concern.
come back. People have said, early season, hopefully. But
Yeah, but even then, if
yeah,
it's 3 weeks, that's still 3 weeks without Mustafa. Do you want
exactly. So
safeties where it's, you know, Richie Grant is going to be your starting safety?
don't love it.
Really?
Don't
You
love it.
want to do that?
Don't love
I
it.
don't. So my thing is, and I've been shouting this for weeks, is that they have to sign Justin Simmons or Julian Blackmon, one of the great free agent safeties that are left.
I would love that.
But
Yeah.
after they've
They have the
taken
cap
care of
space.
Jauan, well, yeah, but if they take care
Oh,
of Jauan, they'll be that much closer to what the Yorks want to spend as far as the ceiling. And so that might not happen. And they could lose early games in the season as a result of being just junk at safety. That's my biggest concern heading into the year is that if you don't get Simmons or Blackmon and Mustafa is down, those two safeties are not going to be good.
no, not at
That
all.
can cause a
It's
lot
a
of problems for a defense.
it's an underrated position of that's causing me fear right now. And I feel like it's under talked about or underrated because the 49ers did a really good job at like not letting that news leak until after all the draft. The 49ers have not been interviewed since that has happened. The Kyle and John have not had to answer for the Malik Mustafa news. We found it out after all the draft interviews concluded. So I feel like they've done a good job at like PRing that story. But yeah, if
Sure.
Cam picks up, it's going to be like, okay, is this guy going to start the season? I don't think so. And we definitely shouldn't be rushing him back because there's no depth behind him. But then if we're not rushing him back, who's starting in his absence? So you're right. I think that's going to be underrated. I think the linebacker too is going to be really underrated. Mm, some guy on PFF or Pro Football Mike Florio. I don't know which one he works for, but he was doing like a underrated breakout players for every team, and I just assumed he was going to say Ricky Pearsall. I feel like I've read a lot of articles and they tend to go to Ricky because he didn't have that opportunity last year, but he put D Winners. So I was like, okay,
Okay.
I don't know why he didn't go into it, but I mean, we definitely need someone to step up in the linebacker position. Um, it'll be interesting to see who takes over there because we need a hard hitter on the other side of Fred Warner with the loss of
Winters can move the field. He's good sideline to sideline. His diagnosis is improving, but I think he's better in pass coverage than run D, and what they're going to need is the run D, and he has to improve there. If Sala was that confident about D Winters, then he wouldn't have made such a fuss over keeping
Greenlaw.
Dre.
Yeah.
So is Sala really that sold on Winters? I would say no, based on how he was responding to we've got to keep Dre.
Yeah.
So it's
And
going
I
to be
also
on. It's going to be on Winters. Winters has to take the next step, and I think that he's fully capable of doing that. And
yeah.
then Nick Martin is going to have to be there right with him, and then they push each other to an elevated level of play.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see who's best out of the two of them. I know Nick Martin was a reach in a lot of people's mock drafts, but then I've also seen people say that he is the prototype player that Robert Saleh specifically goes after. So
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see like some people can be a reach on the big board for the NFL, but if he's a team fit and a scheme fit for Robert Saleh, then he could shine. Someone said Malik Mustafa is going to be great. I loved Malik Mustafa last year. I thought he, did phenomenal. There's two things. One, some people do just have a sophomore slump, so we have to be careful not to just anoint someone right away. But I would have bet on Malik Mustafa. Now he is dealing with an injury, so we got to make sure we have depth around that. That's the 49ers have been bitten in the ass a couple times for having, good starting players, but then lacking depth or utilization of the depth behind that starter. So it'll be
right.
interesting
And
to see what happens.
specifically at safety,
Yeah.
Mustafa's the only starter quality player they've got. And
Yeah.
so if Malik is down, now both of your guys that are starting week 1 are backups. You know, as Jonathan says, he believes that Pinnock can be okay. I do too. I think Pinnock is a good blitzer, and I think that Pinnock can prove that he can take another step and be a solid player. The problem is that to start the year with Malik Mustafa out, you're going to have to, your safety starters are going to be Pinnock and Richie Grant. My issue is Richie Grant.
Got it.
That's why I want Justin Simmons or Julian Blackman.
Got it.
We'll
Yeah.
see how it shakes out. But the Niners could be confident in him and say, "We're going to see how this works out." Yeah, but then if you lose week 1 because your safeties aren't enough, what do you then do? Now,
Yeah.
is Simmons still available? Then is Blackman available? I don't know.
I'm
It's
also going to
just
be interested.
you can't paint yourself into a corner. That's my fear, is that they can say, "Well, we believe in Richie Grant." Yeah, and if he doesn't deliver, then what? And Jonathan says Jair too, same thing.
Yeah.
You can put them all in the same bucket. They aren't starter quality players, and especially when Mustafa is gone. Right now, they are looking at starting week 1 in Seattle with 2 backups.
Yeah. I agree. Brown had a great first year and then really slipped the last
Yeah,
season. A different matchup, speaking of someone who, had a good first year, but then maybe is slipping and, can we now, is there risk of anointing someone too soon? Renardo Green, even Robert Sala gave him praise in his first interview, but then OTAs happened, and Renardo Green, according to multiple beat reporters, was kind of getting eaten up in OTAs. So
yep,
I'll be interested to see, was that kind of a, you can be sick for a week, you can be not in shape at
yeah,
OTAs. I'll be interested when when training camp actually happens. I'm going to be looking at how people are teaming up against Renardo Green. Is he breaking up passes? Is he catching the football? Because Robert Sala talked really highly of him. He had a great, first impression his first rookie year, but then it looked kind of downhill to start the off season. So let's
yeah.
see if
The OTAs didn't look that good,
he
but
was
we don't know
scary.
why.
Yeah.
Could
And
he have had an
are you dealing with
injury?
a little
Yeah,
injury? Are you sick?
right.
There's things that could be happening. Um, and I hope that I'd rather hope it's one of those than you're going through a sophomore slump and you're just not what we thought you were isn't what
Yeah,
we can rely on.
yeah. I hope that it's just something physical that can be healed, but
Yeah.
we'll have had enough time between OTAs and the start of veteran camp that if there was something physical, it should be healed by now, and he should be ready to go.
Agree. So that's definitely a matchup. I'm going to be looking at wide receivers going against Green, and then I think you talked about it, but definitely want to see the running back out of Oregon, Jordan James. Whether it's Christian McCaffrey is healthy and on the field, and hopefully Kyle gets some brains to him and utilizes not just Christian McCaffrey and James is also on the field and they're doing some platoon, or if inevitably Kyle runs Christian McCaffrey in the ground for the first couple weeks and then he's injured, how will Jordan James be when he gets back? I had some comments on my last live where people were like, I really believe in Isaac Rendo. Maybe I'm wrong. I felt like they tried to rely on Isaac Rendo for like 2 weeks last year and it didn't work out well for them. Now, I'm not
Mm,
saying never give him another chance, but
no,
I think
I
they're
think he's
hoping
a
that Jordan James is good because I don't think they want to put all their money on Isaac Rendo if Christian McCaffrey goes down.
yeah.
John
They
Lynch went
they look
out
at
of his
Garendo
way.
as, I'm sorry, can I?
Really,
They
John
look
Lynch
at
went
Garendo as a gadget player, and
gadget
so
player.
he
Okay.
used to be a receiver at Louisville, and he can be a running back, but he still has to learn the position.
Got it. I
Um,
didn't realize that.
so we'll see. Yeah, that if he can become that. I know he's a track guy. He's got a lot of speed. He can. You just need to get him in space. So I think that he's somebody that if you're going to use him at running back, it's more as a check down threat or as just somebody that go out and screens and just give him space and go. But I think that they will use him in the same way that they would line up Debo as a back and then throw to him. I think that that's their plan with Garendo.
That'll be interesting to watch,
Yeah.
though. I would actually wouldn't mind that. I just think they, as Jordan Pierman says, I like Garendo, but let's keep McCaffrey healthy. I think Garendo's skill set isn't being the every down running back. So I
Yeah.
want to see
Change of
how
pace.
Jordan James looks in case there is a scenario where they can't heavily rely on Christian McCaffrey every game because he's injured or,
or
they're
whatever. Yeah.
monitoring how much he's playing. I'm hoping, and I think they're hoping that Jordan James is good. John Lynch has gone on 2 different podcasts this offseason, but the one that sticks out to me the most was when he was on with Chris Sims, and he just was praising Oregon and Oregon's coaching.
Yeah.
And I think
They're
that
great.
heavily influenced them into picking that running back because, as you said during the draft, there was multiple running backs available, but I think they believed so much in that coaching style and thought that character-wise and uh, mindset-wise that it was going to translate the most to the 49ers and what they were looking for in their running back room. So it'll be interesting to look at Jordan James, and then hopefully we can see some more creativity with Kyle, especially now that Debo's gone and Brandon and I will likely be out. Okay, are they utilizing Grendo in the passing game kind of like Debo? Are they throwing the ball more to Kittle in the red zone? And then who can really shine in the running back room? Maybe for some, harder down the middle carries, maybe that's more James. I don't know, but it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see.
That
And
would
I'm
make sense.
looking
He
forward.
was a between the tackles runner for the most part at Oregon, and I think that's
Good.
what they're
And they
conceiving
need that.
he will be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be a good way of protecting Christian as well. But I think that what they're going to have to do is try to protect Christian from himself because he's going to want those stats to get the extension.
Yeah.
The problem is that Kyle is going to be all too willing to enable him to keep going right after that because
No.
Kyle doesn't think 2 inches ahead. He says, easiest thing for us to do, the best thing for my offense is for Christian to be our running back every time we can use him.
Yeah.
Is there going to be any restraint? Is there going to be any balance? Those are key questions going into the year. Christian says he's the healthiest he's been in years, and that can be true. But as you've always pointed out, this injury is based on usage.
Yeah.
It's what's your health status once you've played games is the issue. It's not, are you really healthy now? Well, sure you are, but does it matter? No, not really. It's how do you hold up?
We need
That's
to
the question.
compare your health to you were unhealthy when you were playing football every single week and being utilized at a high extent every single week. What we need to compare that to is how you are when you're playing football every week being utilized,
Right.
not how you are when you're, in the training room for, a couple hours a day and then getting your full sleep and recovery and not flying on planes, etc.
Yep.
And that's nothing down on Chris McCaffrey. I
No.
feel that way too, as someone who's not a professional athlete and just likes to work out. But I think we set up some good battles to look forward to. I'm really excited. We didn't even touch on the quarterbacks, which is kind of crazy. I feel like that's the thing for content
It's
creators to
set.
do. It's
Yeah.
set. Are you interested?
Nothing to talk about, really.
I feel like Larry Krueger has said he thinks Tanner Mordecai is going to overcome Mac Jones. I don't think that. But because I am, no better than I'm not above it. I'm not like I need to be grinding the tape on the running backs and don't care about the quarterbacks. I'm no better than anyone else. I am interested in the running backs, and everything I just said was authentic. But will I be interested in hearing, does Mac Jones throw an interception? Does Brock Purdy? That'll obviously, to me, I didn't kind of state those because those are going to be covered. How Brock Purdy's doing, how the backup quarterbacks are looking. Those are obviously going to get lots of attention. I kind of wanted to highlight things that maybe isn't on the front of everyone's mind, but that will be the most impactful when it comes to this season. Because right now, Brock Purdy's the starting quarterback. How the backups do doesn't super impact the season. As long as
provided Brock stays healthy, it's not an issue. Yeah.
The Malik Mustafa is going to be, his health and who his backup is should hopefully, if Brock Purdy's healthy, be the most important, thing. Not is
right. Well,
Tanner Mordecai good.
It's Mustafa's health, Ayuk's health, McCaffrey's health, and Trent's health. Those 4 guys. And as long as they stay healthy, the Niners are one of the better teams in the NFC.
I agree, Tom. I love it. And we're going to start out on. Wait, so are we going to see?
So we're streaming every week from now on.
We are, but what I was just thinking, and I guess it's a conversation we could have off air. But last time I was in Seattle, we saw each other. Will we see each other week 1?
I hope so. Yeah.
Whoop whoop.
That'd be great.
Hell yeah. We got
Yeah,
some
I look
good.
forward to that.
Okay, I'm excited. I just
Yeah,
thought
that'd be
of that
great.
because I feel like it's been so far away. I haven't like thought about planning it or anything. But um thank you guys everyone for joining. We haven't streamed in a little bit. Jonathan, really appreciated all your chats. We had Edgar in here, which I really appreciate. Someone said Garendo might be good in the outside zone. I think that's kind of what Tom was saying, is utilizing him better. A lot of our regulars, Papa J, really appreciate it. And Julie, she said she was with her family, but we'll rewatch. So I just wanted to shout out Julie.
Cool. Thank you.
Then Cliffs said thanks for the clarification on JJ, especially from a girl. Girls can know what the heck they're talking about, but
This girl knows her stuff
I do.
really,
But
really,
yeah,
really well.
that was week 18 against the Cardinals. Jennings got kicked out, but then was not fined, and it was ruled that he actually didn't make a mistake. But we appreciate having you here, Cliff, Papa J, and then shout out to my dad, who apparently just put in a pizza oven. He was in the chat telling people about that. So I'm gonna go try to figure out how to make a gluten-free pizza crust and make some pizza in that pizza
There you
oven.
go.
He also, when I was on vacation, was sending me pictures of some giant peaches. So I need to make like a peach cobbler or something
There you
immediately.
go. That sounds
Yeah.
great.
Thank you guys so much for joining. It was really, really nice to be back and to be back with Tom, who was
Absolutely,
just the
Ashley.
best,
Loved it.
most insightful. Like I said, 20 minutes ago or something, please make sure to follow NinerCast on Twitter. Tom makes excellent articles, breaks down all the breaking news, all the camp battles that you and I just talked about. He'll probably have something even more extensive on that. He talked about JJ, so make sure to follow him on Twitter to find his articles on SI, and make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because as breaking news comes out, I'll be giving it to you, and then every week Tom and I will be live recapping the latest news and games and all that as they start to happen. So I really appreciate you guys, and I hope you have a good rest of your week. Thanks, guys, and have a good one.